To start the supportive factor session, we can say sadhu once again 3 times.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yato nidanang bhikkhu purisang papancha sanya sankha samudaya charanti ettache natti abhinanditabbang abhivaditabbang ajjositabbang esevanto raganusayanang esevanto patiganusayanang esevanto dittanusayanang esevanto vichikicchanusayanang esevanto mananusayanang esevanto bhavaraganusayanang esevanto avijjanusayanang esevanto dandadana sattadana kalahabhigga vivadatu antu ampe sunyang musavadanang ettateke papaka akusala dhamma apariseso nirujjanti ti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear noble friends, I think that Pali stanza we have been discussing for the last 3 or 4 sessions, and irrespective of number of times I have recited and you have listened, I have my doubt whether you know what it is. It is just like Greek for most of the people. That doesn't matter. We will try to understand it quietly. And this particular stanza is taken from a discourse called Honeyball or Madu Pindika Sutta. And in a session like this, especially since there is a newcomer here, I would like to tell why we are doing a talk. The reason why we do a talk is we do mindful walking and mindful sitting. And this particular way of behavior, at least for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, is not very common and is not usually practiced. So when you do these type of things, it changes a lot of our habits and a lot of our behaviors. So therefore, we will have to understand what is going on and what is happening. And for that reason only, the Blessed One has given so many discourses while he was living. And we also use those discourses and try to relate it to our practice. And the Blessed One says, when you listen to those things or when you engage in those discourses, you will be able to get new knowledge about the practice. You will be able to get some confirmations of what is happening in your practice. You will be able to clear your doubts, and you will be able to have your views straightened. They will have different types of views when you practice, and those views will be straightened. And also, even any of those things don't happen, you will have some satisfaction of listening to this most important and most advanced knowledge available in the universe. You get a wow factor when you listen to those things. So when we take a discourse and discuss, we are not doing it just for the sake of wow factor or entertainment. We are doing it to relate it to the practice. So this is the reason why we are having a discourse. And if I give you the direct translation of the stanza that we just took, it says, Bhikkhu, as to the source through which perceptions and notions born of mental proliferations beset a man, If nothing is found there to delight in, welcome, and hold to, that becomes the end of the underlying tendency of lust, underlying tendency of aversion, underlying tendency of views, underlying tendency of doubt, underlying tendency of conceit, underlying tendency to desire for being, underlying tendency to ignorance. This is the end of resorting to rods, weapons, quarrels, brawls, dispute, recrimination, malicious words, and false speech. Here, these evil, unwholesome states cease without remainder. So, still, I don't think most of the people get the hang of it because it is so long, and some of the things we don't understand what it says. So, we will try. Now, since we have got some understanding beyond the Pali recitation, we will try to see what it says. And before I go any further, I would like to give you the background, as I usually do, of this discourse. This discourse is happening in Sakyan country, in a park called Nigroda Park. And in Nigroda's park, after Blessed One has had his meal, he goes to take some rest. And in that park, at the foot of a bilva sapling, he was resting. When he was resting, another Sakyan called Dandapani is also walking in that park just for exercise. And then he sees the Blessed One. He comes to the Blessed One and exchange greetings. And then he stood at the side of at one side and leaning on to stick that he is carrying, and asked the Blessed One, King Vado Samano Kimak Kaiti. So the way he is presenting himself before asking the question is also very funny. When someone sees the Blessed One, what we usually do is you pay respect and sit to one side. But in this case, he's not doing that. He's just having a stick, maybe an old guy going with a stick. And he he rests his chin on the stick, and then he's asking the question in a funny way, in a sarcastic manner from the Blessed One. He's asking, King Vado Samano Kimakkaiti, which means, what does the recluse assert and what do you proclaim? So during Buddha's time, there were a lot of people who have been giving different viewpoints about the universe, about the existence, about the human being. So therefore, Vad means an argument. They're putting forward an argument, putting forward an assertion. And so people talk about it, people talk for it and against it, and that's how the contemporary teachers have taught their disciples. But when the Blessed One was asked this question, he gave a wonderful answer. The answer he gave was Viggahiya tittati chinna kukkuchang kamehi visangyuttang akatang kating bhava bhave vita tanha sanya nanusenti. When he said that, Dandapani could not understand head or tail of what he said. It's the same thing that happens even here. To anybody, don't know what he's talking about, and he made all funny faces to the Blessed One, and he went on his walk. And then after that, the Blessed One came to the monks and told the monks the same thing, that something like this happened, and I gave this answer. Viggahya tittati kamehi visangyuttang akatang kating chinna kukkuchang bhava bhave vita sanya nanusenti. And what it means is, Viggahya tittati means I don't quarrel with anybody. So he's not giving any assertion. He's not giving any argument. So it was not something that can be fathomed by Dandapani. Dandapani thinks everyone is fighting with the other person with the teaching or with the assertion that they are putting forward. Blessed One says, no, that is not my way. And then he says, Kame Visangyutang, detached from sensuality. And that is also something that people cannot understand. How you live without satisfying your six sense organs. So he cannot understand that as well. Akatang kading chinna kukkucha. And this is even more strong. It says, I don't have any perplexity shown of worry. No, perplexity means I don't have any doubt that I'm quarreling or that I am away from sensuality. And he says, 100%, I'm very confident of what I'm saying. And I don't have any worry that I'm not fighting with and that I'm away from sensuality as well. That is the meaning of akathang kating chinna kukucha. Bhava bhave vitatanna means I don't look for any becoming. Now, when we meditate, when we go to high levels of the practice, we are getting very serene, very blissful states. And the Blessed One says, I don't care those states as well. I don't generate any craving for those things. And then he says, Sanya nanusenti, I don't have slightest underlying perceptions that the above words, above things would reverse. I don't have any remain the left that what I'm saying is wrong. So this way of confirmed definitive answer is not possible by an ordinary person. So therefore he says, in this world with its gods, its maras and its brahmas, in this generation with its recluses and Brahmins and its princes and its people, I proclaim this. So he has given the entire spectrum of living beings and he very strongly says, this is what I'm doing and I don't fight. And I'm away from sensuality and I don't have any doubts of what I'm talking about. I don't have any craving for any becoming and I don't have any slightest doubt, slightest perception that my words would reverse. And when he said this to the bhikkhus also did not understand. But there was one very inquisitive monk. He asked, Pante, hold on. And Blessed One wanted to get up and go. Then he said, hold on. What do you mean? What do you mean by what you said? Then the Blessed One recited the stanza that we took. Then only this particular stanza is coming into the picture. Its meaning is, Bhikkhu, as to the source through which the perceptions and notions born of mental proliferations beset a man, if nothing is found there too, delight in, welcome, or hold on to. So I will explain that first. Yeah, explained this many times in the past, but just to refresh your memory, what it says is we have, being human beings, especially when you meditate, there is a state where you have mental proliferations going in your head and you may be sitting and doing your practice, but there will have some thoughts going constantly. And that process is what is explained here. It says, Prapancha Sanya Sankha Samuda Charanti. So, those perceptions, those mental proliferations, which continues, is a general behavior of the mind. And if you are not dead, that is happening all the time. And that is what you call Prapancha Sanya Sanka Samudaya Charanti, and its direct English translation is as to the source through which perceptions and notions born of mental proliferations. So Then he says, when that, let me say for simplicity's sake, thinking process or the thought process or internal dialogue, so this is going on. When this goes on, he says, beset a man if nothing is found there to delight in. And if he is not getting delighted in that process, and if you don't find anything there to welcome, and go to the gate and open the gate and say, oh, come in, or hold on to, if none of these things are happening, if none of these things are happening, to what? To these mental proliferations. You don't delight in the mental proliferation. You don't welcome those mental proliferations. You don't hold on to this mental proliferation. If none of these three things are happening, then the Blessed One says that becomes the end of underlying tendencies. Underlying tendencies of what? Underlying tendencies to lust, aversion, views, doubt, conceit, desire for being, ignorance, etc. Right? So therefore, when that monk asked, what do you mean by Viggahya Tittati? Kame Visangyuttang, Akatang Kating, Chinna Kukuchang, Baba Bhave Tanha, Sanya Nanusenti. This is the answer he gave. He gave. So when he gave this answer, again, monks did not understand. But I did not go to that answer when the monk did not understand what they did after that. Before that, I have taken this opportunity, I have taken these words to explain what underlying tendencies are. That is what we are doing. And underlying tendencies, there are 7 underlying tendencies given here. Of those, we have already discussed 3 of them. Lust, aversion, and views we have already discussed. Today, we have got to discuss about the underlying tendencies of doubt, skeptical doubts. So before coming on to that, I would like to explain what underlying tendencies are first, because especially for the benefit of the newcomers, underlying tendency means it's a level, it's a layer of our defilements. Basically, there are different levels of defilements. The most gross level of defilement, raw level of defilement is the what you call transgressional defilements, which means breaking the 5 precepts. So that all of us know. And the second level of defilements is obsessional defilements. Obsessional defilements means the defilements that goes in the mind that you know. Say, for example, you have a thought of lust, you have a thought of hatred, or you have some sleepy nature while practicing, or you have some agitations, you have some annoyance, you have some worry, and you have some doubts. So those things are there. It is unlike transgressional defilements. When you break a precept, you know definitely you have broken a precept, and other people also will know. If you kill an animal, at least that animal will know that you have killed. Similarly, the other precepts also, at least one more person would know. Therefore, it is not something hidden. But when it comes to obsessional defilements, nobody knows. You are the only person who knows that you have some defilement in your mind. So therefore, transgressional defilements are connected with the physical and verbal behavior, and obsessional defilements are connected with the mental behavior. And again, so far as the mental behavior is concerned, it is the gross layer of mental behavior. And then underneath that, below obsessional defilements, you have a defilement called underlying tendencies, and people call it mental corruptions as well. And this underlying tendencies, you have no way of identifying it. Underlying tendencies, even you don't know. In the case of obsessional defilement, you know, yes, I have a thought of lust, I have a thought of hatred. But here, you don't know. So then, why you don't know them is because they are appearing in the mind in a perverted manner and in a cheeky manner, in a cheating manner, and you think that it is something good, but the agenda of the mind is something else. So if I give you, for example, a simple example for underlying tendency for lust and even for hatred, when you practice, when you do your walking mindfulness or when you do your sitting mindfulness, if your mind wanders away and if you try your level best to bring it back to your walking, if you try to bring it back to your breathing, what happens is you think that it is something that you must do because what you do is you observing the breath and observing walking. But underlying tendency there is you have a craving, you have a desire towards being in the main object, primary object, and you have a hatred towards the mind wandering away. So that you don't know. And that only because of its perverted nature, because it's Dhamma aligned nature, you don't know. So therefore, underlying tendencies can be really seen when you go to a mirror. The mirror means, in this case, you will have to tell your practice and what is in your mind regarding the practice to a teacher. Then the teacher will see that there is an underlying tendency that is working here. He will be able to come out of it. So in that manner, there are so many things, so many perversions of the mind. And I have just given one example to explain it. So I think you have a slight understanding of now what underlying tendency is. And I also at the same time explained underlying tendency of lust, how underlying tendency of lust works, how underlying tendency of hatred works. It is just one example, and it is not the only example. There will have so many things that in a perverted manner, the mind will try to bring underlying tendency of lust and hatred. And also we discussed in the last session underlying tendency to views. And in that, what we discussed was these views are coming again as an underlying tendency in a perverted manner. And there are the main, let me put it this way, the main culprit of view is the notion of self. And all of us think that there is an entity called me, and because of that view we have, very strong view we have, it is giving rise to all other sorts of views. And in Brahmajala Sutta, in other words, in English they call it divine net discourse. That is the first discourse in the Sutta Pitaka. And that discourse explains 62 such instances where people are getting bogged down in wrong view. And those wrong views are appearing in a perverted manner. If I may give a simple example, when you practice, say for example, sitting mindfulness, and if you observe the breath, and if you are able to bring your attention to the breath, and if you are able to keep it for long time, say for the full 1 hour, you are able to be with the breath, and breath may be getting reduced to very minute level, unperceivable level, but still you are able to keep observing it. And some people say it becomes, the edge of a needle, top part of the needle, but still I am able to observe. So when you observe in that manner, and when you observe in that manner for a long time, not just 1 hour, and you may be able to observe it for so many months, so many years, and you may be able to do it full time. What happens is, since it has been happening for such a long time, the Blessed One says, such a person may think that after death, this is the state that you are going to be born into. So therefore, this state is a permanent state. And this is the final state that anyone could go to. And he comes to a view like that. And why he comes to that view is because he is considering that it is me and that it is permanent. So this is why I said the self notion is the mother of all other views. So I just gave one example. There are 61 more examples in the Brahmajala Sutta. So when someone says like that, the underlying tendency, you can't see the underlying tendency. And if one of you guys come and say that, Bante, I am able to have my attention to the breath the entire 45 minutes, entire 1 hour, that person is expecting the teacher to praise him. But the teacher will be very cautious, and teacher will be seeing the lines between the lines and see whether he's having some inclination towards this self notion, and whether he is trying to identify himself with his own ability of seeing, observing the breath. So in that manner, indirectly, mind is trying to stress the meditator that the self is there. So therefore, these type of things that are happening is not easy to observe. Therefore, discussion is very important when you practice. And from the words, from the tone of the words, and facial expressions, etc., is giving a good indication what sort of defilements, especially underlying tendencies, what sort of underlying tendencies would exist. So those are the things we discussed for the first three underlying tendencies. So the underlying tendency that we are going to discuss today is Vichikiccha Anusaya. In other words, underlying tendency to skeptical doubts. So what is skeptical doubt is very important before we go into underlying tendency of skeptical doubt. In Chetokila Sutta, the Blessed One is saying this doubt now. Usually human beings are having doubts with each and everything. But in this case, skeptical doubts are not just doubts about everything and anything else, but it is about the Blessed One. If you have any doubt about the Blessed One, if you have any doubt about the Dhamma teaching, if you have any doubt about the community of Sangha, if you have any doubt about your own morality, then that becomes a skeptical doubt, not anything and everything else. And when you have the doubt, what they say is it is not just the doubt. You may not be certain about the Blessed One, about the teaching, about the community of Sangha, and about your precepts. And you may be undecided. You may be lacking confidence in any of those things. And what it says is, Sattari kankati vitikicchati nadimucchati na sampasidati. So those are the instances in other words, uncertain, undecided, and lacking confidence in those four things I mentioned, then it leads to a skeptical doubt, because these are imperative in the practice, especially when you say skeptical doubt about the Buddha. In Buddha's name, so many things are being told today. So when someone is trying to practice, when someone is trying to see which teacher is teaching the right Buddha's words, the practitioners are in a real mess, because one is telling one thing, another one is telling another thing, some other person is something else. So therefore, it's very, very hard to figure out someone who is trying to enter which one is the correct. So therefore, the approach I am taking is what value addition the blessed one gave to the practitioners that existed during Buddha's time. And meditation is not something that was introduced by Buddha. It was happening even before Buddha. And mindfulness is not something by the Blessed One. Mindfulness was there even before the Blessed One. Otherwise, people won't be able to go to those levels, high levels of jhanic experiences. To go to jhanic experiences, mindfulness should be there. And not only just mindfulness, they should have been able to perpetuate the mindfulness as well. Then only they will be able to go to those jhanic experiences. So therefore, it's not only mindfulness, even clear comprehension or the full awareness has been there. So then the question arises, what the heck Buddha introduced? And when we look into that, the things many people are saying, insight is the one that the Blessed One introduced, and what do you call, dependent origination is something Buddha introduced, and all sorts of things. But those ideas have been there even before Buddha. Dependent origination, there were people accepting that there is life after death. So therefore, it is not 100%. I mean, Buddha gave clarity to it, but it is not something purely from Buddha. So the value addition Buddha gave to the universe is not just the mindfulness, to keep the mindfulness to the fore. When you keep the mindfulness to the fore, under no circumstances you will come to a conclusion that this is mine and that this is permanent. And that is what happened before Buddha. They have gone to the highest level of jhanic experiences and they consider that it is the end. Buddha says, don't come to a conclusion. Simply keep observing. So that observation can be done only when you appreciate the fact that you will have to keep the mindfulness to the fore, keeping the body as the focal point. So if you accept that and you accept Buddha, you have no doubts about Buddha. And if you accept that, you accept the teaching. And if you accept that, and you become a Sangha. And if someone is teaching that, then you become a noble friend to somebody else. And I'm not saying I'm not saying all what other things Buddha said is wrong. They are 100% arising from keeping the mindfulness to the fore. But the real crust of Buddha's teaching is to keep the mindfulness to the fore and have the body as the focal point. So, therefore, someone, we will forget about keeping the mindfulness to the fore. At least if someone appreciating mindfulness, then he is with Buddha. And Buddha himself has said in Sakunagi Sutta, if someone is practicing four foundations of mindfulness, he is within my boundaries. He is within my gochara bhumi. He is within my realm. So therefore, to practice four foundations of mindfulness, you should have mindfulness. You will have to keep the mindfulness to the fore. Then only when your attention goes to the body, and when it is firmly in the body, you feel feelings. When you have feelings, then you accept that it is a feeling and you observe that feeling. So the mindfulness is perpetuating. And then once you go through the feelings, maybe you are going into the deeper layers of the mind, and you start getting thoughts. So when you start getting thoughts, you simply observe those thoughts. So then mindfulness is perpetuating, and you are with the Buddha. And after that, these things are happening in a cyclical manner, and that becomes a general phenomena, that becomes the nature, and you accept that. So this is four foundations of mindfulness, and that happens not just because of mindfulness, but because you are learning the art of not doing anything, and you are learning the art of perpetuating observation. So therefore, when someone is having confidence in Buddha, as Buddha said in Sakunagi Sutta, you will not have skeptical doubts. Similarly, Buddha says, if someone sees me, he sees Dhamma. If someone sees Dhamma, he sees me. So when you take that equation, if Buddha is equivalent to four foundations of mindfulness, and if Buddha is equivalent to the teaching, then naturally teaching is equivalent to four foundations of mindfulness, simple arithmetics. So therefore, even when you observe keeping the mindfulness to the fore, you accept Dhamma. That is the entire Dhamma, so far as I am concerned. Everything else is built up and springing from keeping the mindfulness to the fore. And then anyone who is practicing that can be considered as Sangha. Everyone else is just wearing another robe and a shaven head. Simple as that. And just wearing a robe, saffron robe, and shaving the head is not a Sangha, but they have got to practice Buddha's teaching, and not just observing precepts, not just meditating. They have got to keep the mindfulness to the fore. Then only you have the opportunity, at least, to practice four foundations of mindfulness. It is not just learning four foundations of mindfulness. There are some people who are trying to study four foundations of mindfulness and teach others. I will have to say good luck, because it's much more than reading a book and teaching. It is awareness of four foundation of mindfulness is living, nothing but living, nothing but understanding your own living. So without you understanding your own living at the physical level, at the mental level, you won't be able to relate to somebody else and teach just by reading a book or reading the discourse. And also the next thing that is given is sikkati kankati, which means you have doubts about your own precepts. So when this is happening, if you have any doubts whether you are lying, whether you are breaking any precept, then again that becomes a skeptical doubt. So therefore, the what do you call uh, doubt, in other words, is the lack of confidence. And therefore, in Chunky Sutta, if you don't have faith, then you will not go forward in the Dhamma Blessed One is explaining. And let me say how long we have taken in the... How long has the talk gone to? I don't know. 45 minutes? Okay. So, 53 minutes already. Okay. Right. Right. Well, I checked the time was because the next part is also going bit detail, but let me explain it very quickly. The skeptical doubt is the opposite of faith. So in the teaching, the Blessed One says, The faith is most important thing. If you have faith, then you will have the energy, and then you will develop mindfulness, then you will go to the concentration, and then you will have the wisdom. So therefore, faith is the basic starting point. So although the faith is basic starting point, the blessed one is saying in Chanki Sutta, just having the faith is not enough. If you have the faith only, what happens is you will be preserving whatever you have. You will not do anything else. And that is what is happening today. Everyone is preserving Dhamma. Everyone, all the libraries in the temples are full of Tripitaka and full of Dhamma book. Nobody is reading. No one is reading, and they are full of dust as well at the same time. So therefore, they preserve because of the faith, but nothing else is happening. So the blessed one says, when you preserve in that manner, you become a file of blind men. One is passing to the other, and that one is passing to the another person. That person is passing to the next person, and no one has actually seen it. Therefore, the blessed one says, so this passing like a blind man is not enough. You will have to at least check it, at least investigate it. So, which means you associate a monk, you talk to a monk, you read books, you read Tripitaka, and try to understand it. When you try to understand it, you are not simply preserving the truth. You are trying to discover at least whether this is a truth. And without discovering whether it is a truth, you will never try it. So therefore, the blessed one says, don't be a blind man. Open those books and read, and have a talk to a monk, and ask them, after eating what we are giving you guys, what do you all do? And then based on that, keep on asking questions, and then understand whether they are doing something useful, whether they are trying to tell you the truth. And then the blessed one says, even after discovering the truth is not enough. Blessed one says, you have got to become the truth. You have got to accomplish the truth. In other words, you will have to go beyond the truth. So therefore, the blessed one says to go beyond the truth. Once you have investigated, once you have discovered the truth, you will have to do your own practice. So once you do your own practice, whatever that you have believed, whatever that you have seen in the book will be verified. So once it is verified, there will not have any doubt about it. So that is what we are doing here. We are trying to keep the mindfulness to the fore. When we try to keep the mindfulness to the fore, and we are trying to we are trying to accomplish what we believe, mind is not allowing us. Mind is not allowing us to do anything like that. Our mind prefers to be in either the first or the second stage of faith, not the last one. So therefore, when you try to accomplish the truth, all but skeptical doubts are at play. You will be giving 101 questions. How can it be moving away from the main object become mindfulness? It can't be. If you are really mindful, and if you, even the term says anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing in and out. So it can't be mindfulness if we allow the awareness to go to something else. So what naturally, I mean, it's a very valid argument depending on the title of the discourse and depending on what the Buddha has explained. It's a very valid argument. that mindfulness has to be with the primary object, but it is taking you away from the basic advice of the Buddha, which is at the very beginning of the four foundations of mindfulness. He says, Ujung kayang panidaya parimukang sating upattapetva. So that is where the Dhamma is. Our mind is trying some or other not to take you there. Mind is trying to some or other hook you to the breath and then create a doubt so that you will be running around that and you will not go to the real Dhamma. So therefore, when you try to accomplish, there will have so many doubts in that manner, and initially those doubts will arise as a hindrance, and practice will not practice will be really one will be made blind, and you may be having lack of clarity and destroy wisdom, and you will be confused when it is working as a what you call a nivarana, hindrance. What is happening today is only that. By institutionalizing Buddha's teaching, there are huge universities teaching Buddha's Dhamma. No one is practicing. So therefore, they are arguing which one is correct and which one is wrong. And they are having degrees and they are having PhDs, but no one has accomplished it, because they are still only at the second layer. They are discovering. They have not taken the next step of accomplishing it. So therefore, it has not come to the underlying tendency layer. They are still at the hindrance layer. They haven't been able to come to the underlying tendency layer. So when you come to the underlying tendency, what happens is, it is, as I said at the beginning, the skeptical doubts are coming in a perverted manner, in a cheeky manner. You don't know. Let me give you an example. There are a lot of people who are doing a lot of research about mindfulness, scientific research to prove mindfulness. Who wants scientific research to prove mindfulness? Buddha has done that research for 400,000 eons and taught us mindfulness, or to keep the mindfulness to the full. Who the hell are these new scientists to prove the benefit of mindfulness? So what is happening there is, they have come to the mindfulness. They have seen the benefit of mindfulness. They are getting caught up in this underlying tendency of doubt. And when I asked this in the conference that Ranjan organized, that guy who was presenting it at least did not understand the question. I asked them, he was talking about a lot of big researchers, and I asked them, why you want research? It has been already researched and presented and it is working. Why you waste your time? Then his answer was, no, you have the culture here, we don't have the culture. It is not necessary to have the culture. It is the ability of the person who has really practiced it to prove anyone who is listening. And I'm talking to many people and many nationalities and many religious denominations. And when I say without any scientific proof, people get the logic in it. And therefore, what happens is, what I want to say is, by going behind this research, we are indirectly getting caught up in underlying tendency of skeptical doubt. And some people they want to do it perfect. So therefore, they want Buddha's word as it is. So first what they do is, they start learning Pali. Because everything is in Pali. So unless you know Pali, you will not be able to understand this well. Why you do that? Because you don't want to test it yourself. You have some doubts. And therefore, they encourage those doubts within them by learning Pali and by learning anything in that manner. So far as the Buddhism is concerned, is for me entertainment of skeptical doubt. But it looks like a huge thing that should happen, that should serve the community. But so far as the viewpoint of the practitioner, it is an underlying tendency. And and some people say without learning the entire canon, you can't do. And there are so many skeptical doubts being spreaded by monks. So many skeptical doubts by monks, not lay people, not non-Buddhists, by Buddhists themselves. They are creating so much of ambiguities in the teaching, and practitioners are really messed up. And having said that, not everybody. For some people who have been going to many different places, when they come and talk and when they tell that what the teaching of the Buddha is four foundations of mindfulness and to keep it to the four, then most of the people, they immediately understand it and they definitely grab it and they start practicing. So therefore, what I have seen in my groups is I have very high retention rate. And when we add 15 people, 20 people to the group, just one person will leave. And that is also in a very pessimistic estimation. And so therefore, there are a lot of people who understand. And for them to get that, they should have some luck. And they should have some humbleness. If that humbleness and the luck is not there, they will not take this as the truth and the teaching of the Buddha, and they will not put into practice. So therefore, when a divine being passes away in the divine realm, their relatives come and tell the divine being, you go to the heaven and get the greatest gift. And that greatest gift is the faith in the Dhamma. And we have come to this world with that advice from the relatives in the divine realm. When we came from the divine realm, we have forgotten it now. And even the monster Alavaka asked Buddha, what wealth is the best for a man? And he said, wealth is the faith. So that wealth we have, so we are very rich in that manner. So may that richness flourish in your life and realize this wonderful truth in this very life itself. Blessings to all of you. All right. So I'm not quite sure. What's her name? Tasha. Tashi. Whether you understood anything I said? A little bit. Yeah, understanding little bit is more than enough, because this this is a bit of a deep layer we are discussing, so I try to make it as simple as possible. So after this, we are taking few minutes to answer any questions, any complaints, any suggestions that you may have to discuss. So we can take some time for discussion. Is anybody having anything to discuss? Yes, Ishan.
Thiruvan Sarai Bante, just a couple of points. Just want to actually, if no one has said anything, I just want to quickly say, Bante, that to verify, I had one question which you actually sort of answered in the last bit of the talk. You mentioned, Bante, a lot of people say, okay, what is the highest blessing? Like everyone is doing a merit and doing a lot of things as part of the practice, and aiming for some reward later on. But as you mentioned, I was going to ask, isn't one? I was also coming to the conclusion that the highest reward is actually getting the chance to practice meditation and getting a human birth to actually hear the Dhamma and then be able to practice it. So that was, I think you mentioned something like that. Is that, can I understand it like that?
Yeah. Because I mean, Even after becoming a human being, we have been lucky to be born in a society where you hear Buddhism. And not just Buddhism, now you have started hearing to keep the mindfulness to the fore. That is extremely rare. Keeping the mindfulness to the fore means don't do anything, just keep observing. A lot of Buddhists are asking us to do merits, as you said. And 99.9% of the temples, they will have all sorts of rituals and pujas and meritorious deeds, and they have taken the contract of taking you to a better divine realm. But what Buddha says is, we have come from the divine realm to the heaven, and in the heaven, we are looking for another heaven. So I will have to say, what the hell?
Okay,
No, no,
understood that, Bante.
no,
Thank you. So I was
not
actually
heaven. So your understanding is basically right.
Okay, Bhante. And the other question I had, Bhante, in regard to the practice, I was just contemplating in terms of the sensors and the experience. So, like when we pay attention to the body in meditation, I observe different various sensations happening across the body, and they are you have one sensation, it persists for some time and disappears, and they can be pleasurable or can be painful, but you keep observing and it appears and disappears. So the tendency to say, okay, see that something is changing, is you can see that. But if you take, for example, in terms of the senses, the sense of sight. So when we are normally in a visual world, I found like our sense of self is more, because, and I was thinking, you can't actually see the rate of change in sight seems very less. Is that, does that contribute to the our perception of self, Bante? Because even sound, if your eyes are closed and you're paying attention to the sound, you find different sounds arising, and you can see their different arising and passing, and it's coming from different locations. So you can see that. But in terms of sight, we can't. It's not that easy to see any variation. So, like all the what you call like sense of self that you're creating, like this is mine. And so, what is the? Is there any observation we can do with related to sight, Bhante?
No, I'm seeing it in a different way.
Okay,
What the
Bhante.
mind is trying to do here is, mind is trying to create self through your practice. Mind is trying to tell you that you have observed non-self in observing the feelings, but you are unable to observe non-self in the visual world. So the mind is trying to create self through observation itself,
Understood.
through
Okay.
Dhamma. So what we will have to do is, of course, we will have to simply observe, and that's it. We are not trying to see whether we are seeing non-self or whether we are seeing self. So that is application of Dhamma. When we simply keep on observing, if it is happening properly, you will get an experience that non-self experience will come. I mean, of course, when you see, as you said, that feelings are changing, it is non-self. But don't be in a hurry to judge.
Understood, Bhante.
Yeah, so therefore, these are the perverted ways that the mind is trying to continue, perpetuate defilements. So unless you bring your mind out about the practice in this manner, then we will get hooked up in it. Make
Okay,
sense?
Bhante. Yes. So in terms of, if whatever it comes, just keep the mindfulness without coming to a conclusion on any
Yes.
of those type of topics.
Absolutely, yeah. We should not decide. Keep the decision pending. Just choiceless awareness. No intentional involvement.
Understood, Bhante. Okay,
Teruvan
those are
Sangam.
the
Any other things from here? Okay. You want to say anything? Or are you okay for today? Yeah, all right. Okay, so assuming that there are no comments, compliments, suggestions, we can close the session. In order to close the session, since Nathan is there, we will recite the Pali stanzas. I have it here, so I'll share it with the audience in. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
After each section, it has this Yavadeva Jnanamattai Patisutimattai. So, after listening to today's discussion, it's been always an highlight.
Yeah.
Patisutimattai is, as I understand, it's the effortless, continuous mindfulness, and Jnanamattai, it's the knowledge that that the awareness. So I again believe the ground for these two, again, the mindfulness and the body. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah.
So after each and every satipatthana, like when it's going towards liberation, this is the same pace on things and body.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will have to clarify something there. The question is, in Four Foundations of Mindfulness, at the end of each and every section, the Blessed One says, Jnanamattaya, Patisatimattaya, and some verses there. I also exactly don't remember. And number one, it is Jnana Mattaya Patisati Mattaya. Jnana Mattaya means you get a glimpse of Jnana, not continuation. Glimpse, you get glimpses. Jnana Mattaya Patisati Mattaya. You get that glimpse when you have a perfect mind, a glimpse of perfect mindfulness. And then you start seeing breath is, it is not just one whole breath. It is breath particles. When the attention goes to the body, and it is not just solid body, it has some vibrations. So that jnana happens when the mindfulness has become perfect. So it can happen in the physical level, at the physical level in any of those 14 methods. You may feel it physically. But at the feelings level, it is little more beyond physicality. It is connected to the mind as well. You observe the feelings as well. It is not solid. It keeps changing when you get close to the epicenter of the feelings, and you start seeing that feelings is spreading or feeling is moving, right? And when it goes to the mind, it is even faster. And the changes in the mind, you observe when it goes to the mind, you may not see the physical process firmly as such, but then it is the mental process that you are seeing. So it's not always physical. So, Thiruvan Saranai.
This continuity is
Jnana Mattaya, for me, it is Matra. Jnana Matrayak from Sati Matrayak. That's how it says. Because if it is continuation, those matra may lead to continuation. When you keep on doing it, it may lead to continuation. Yeah. So that's what I feel. Then only those stages of visions will start. Thiruvan Saranai. Right. So we can go for transfer of merits. To transfer the merits, we will chant the English verses today with me. In that manner, all the positive vibrations that we have generated today will be shared with all the beings in the universe, and especially those who help to preserve this Dhamma and preserve the take care of and look after the practicing monks. And may all these beings rejoice these merits that we have generated today. And with that determination in mind, we can recite, may all devas share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all other beings share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all the beings share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect the dispensation. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect the teaching. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect me and others. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Master, O Victor, greatly wise. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Dhamma, to be seen here and now, timeless. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Sangha, practiced well, the incomparable. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives and may they be happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives and may they be happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives and may they be happy. By the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana. By the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana. By the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Blessings to all of you. See you all next time. Teruvan Saranai.
Thank you, Bante. Teruvan Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai.